Welcome back. In this module, we will learn about news and information. I know you must be thinking, like, what are you going to talk new about news or information? We know what is news and what is information. Yes, you all know everything about news and information, but as we were discussing in many classes, that we are living in a media saturated society. We are being flooded with information from so many platforms, and we really don't know what is the kind of information that's out there. And sometimes information can be misleading. Sometimes you will have to take some decisions with your life which can be really important for you and crucial for you. And on those circumstances, how would you handle those information? So the main agenda is, we are going to learn about what is news, and we are going to have a very interesting look about the different kinds of information that exist out there. We were discussing about so many mass media, right? And we are being getting information from various sources, and it's very important for you to have a very clear idea about understanding the different kinds of information. I think this is going to be very important for you, not only for this class but also for your life. So let's get started. So I want you to ask yourself this question: what is news? Pause, take a minute, record or write your observation, and I'm going to tell you what is news from my perspective. I took journalism classes in my postgrad, and a professor came in, and he was also asking us this question: what is news? And we said, anything that's new, that's news, yes. But he said something like, when a dog bites a man, it's not news. But when a man bites a dog, that is news. So that was a very good perspective to start the class. But if you ask me what is news, I would say news is based on directions. What? What are you talking about, man? Yes, north, east, west, south. And all the information from all these directions comes together, and that is news. I don't know how I got this, but I think I kind of think that was the most brilliant way of explaining news. But it may not be anywhere in academia, but this is just something I think I heard from someone. But let's move on to the next thing. What is the latest news? I am a big news junkie. It's not that I'm very keen about what's up, but I think I want to have a very decent idea of what's happening around me. I saw this morning when I got up, I use a news aggregator like news.google.com, where it pretty much pulls in all the trending news from across the globe. And I read Sean Spicer was fired and replaced by Sanders Huckabee. And then I read that a boy in New Mexico was playing outside, and he thought he found something like the size of a cow, but then he found a 1 million-year-old fossil of a dinosaur, and that was interesting. And then there was an earthquake in Turkey. Apparently, two people have died. And then the Japanese first lady didn't speak to Trump. And then obviously everybody is talking about Linkin Park and how the lead singer committed suicide. And I like the song "In the End" by Linkin Park. He's a good guy, good song. Yeah, it's unfortunate that this celebrity deaths are getting so much of news attention. And then I was looking at about the Trump and Russia investigation. I think that also takes a lot of time and space by all the other media. And what's the other important news? I think these are the things that I remember from the top of my mind. There's also a lot of other news that I read. So, what is the latest news? Okay, but my prediction is most of you in this class will not have a clue of what's happening, because I totally get it. You don't want to know what's happening around the world or the national politics or the economics and all that. I totally get it. It's all right. So again, this is my prediction. I may be completely wrong. There must be someone who's really pro politics or proactive in news, but I'm guessing like at least 90% of this class They don't care about news. Honestly, when I was a student, I didn't want to know what's happening around me. Never mind. Where do news come from? So news basically, what makes news. Okay, we are reading newspapers, we are reading, we're watching television, we're listening to radio stations. What makes it news? I mean, conflicts, constantly, we are looking at, the constant conflict that's happening in the Middle East and Syria and ISIS and the Palestinian and Israel conflict. And we sometimes get a look of the conflicts in Africa, the Somalian pirates, and in Southeast Asia we have a lot of issues. So conflict is something that's kind of constantly that gets news attention. And again, disaster, as I told you, there was a earthquake in Turkey, and about two people died and many people injured. And progress and development, like what happens, like, I read this article about Elon Musk, how he has convinced the government to give an approval for underground tunnel from New York to Washington D.C. So usually, I think if you want to travel by car, it takes about 5 hours. If you fly, it's going to be about like 1.1 hour and 30 minutes. But if you're going to use the sloop, it's going to be in 29 minutes. But it's very much in the initial stage. He's trying to do a boring. His company is called Boring Company. They're trying to bore underground and make a kind of a hyperloop travel where they'll put you in a pod, and in 29 minutes you will be in Washington, and the other way around. This is something that Elon Musk is trying to work it out, and we don't know whether it's going to happen. That's a progress or a development which I think was interesting. And about crime, crime is always, we always want to know what's happening around us. In fact, I was reading some news about how four Pennsylvania men were missing, and I was very curious about what happened to them. And then I found out they were killed and they were burnt in a pig roaster or something, and it was very sad. And it happened in Bucks County or somewhere. And so those are things that kind of, I was curious about what happened, and also about this girl that was killed in a road rage in West Goshen. So yeah, so crime is something that was always fascinates us, and we always want to know what's happening around us. And about money, economics, what happens, what if the inflation, the stocks, everything matters. And issues, it can be issues like, gay movement, or the lesbian rights, or it can be issues like, how the high school budget cut is happening across the colleges and universities across the country. Or we can now talk about the issues of health and Obama repeal and all that. So there's so many issues that we can discuss about. And again, it also talks about underdogs. Underdogs, basically, it can be in the field of sports, or it can be in the field of politics. Anybody who's trying to make a difference, and whether sports, religion, health, technology, religion, I think I repeated religion twice, entertainment, and human interest. These all the things make up news. So again, we can talk about this for hours, but I have an idea. Okay, I'm asking you this question. What do you think is interesting? A 15-year-old girl marrying a 50-year-old man, or a 25-year-old girl marrying a 25-year-old man? Obviously, something that's kind of not normal, or not that's, usual, that catches our attention. A 15-year-old girl marrying a 50-year-old man, for what? For love, or for money, or for a number of other reasons. Okay. And a deer or a child killed in a car wreck, obviously a child killed in a car wreck gets more attention. So think, I mean, it's something like, sometimes, you want to get the attention of the people, and people go to any extent to do that. And I think a lot of people try to also do a clickbait online. They're trying to see, oh, look at the top 10 child stars, and you will be amazed at how they are looking right now, or something like that. They're trying to get some kind of attention, and they do some clickbait where they make us try to click a link which will be actually of no news value, but that's how it works in the online field. So there are four important criteria that actually makes up to be a newsworthy content. First, is it new? Second, is it unusual? Third, is it interesting or significant? Fourth, is it about people? I think if it satisfies any of those four criteria, I think that is definitely a newsworthy content. Let's look at the first content. Is it new? Okay, let's look at example of JFK assassination. Yes, JFK was killed many decades back, but do you think can it be reported in tomorrow's newspaper? Obviously, no, right? But there is a small thing. What if there is some kind of thing? Always this eventually will pop up again and again for I think till the end of your life. New JFK assassination theory, Cuban double agent led plot. Okay, so always people are fascinated with this concept. I think everybody in this country they will very clearly remember the time when JFK was killed. That's how significant this man was for this country, and he is definitely a legendary figure in politics. And this is something new. Like any development that happens, even that happened several decades back, that's it. That's new, and it adds new relevance to the concept, and that can be a newsworthy content. Second, is it unusual? A woman gets up at 5 o'clock, goes to work, and comes back home after an 8 hour shift. Okay, do you think it's unusual? I don't think so. But if a 85-year-old woman gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, she catches a bus and goes to work and does an 8 hour shift and comes back, and that's definitely something. It can be definitely a kind of a human interest news story, and oh, it can be inspiring to people who think they don't want to go to work and they don't want to do this and all that. She can be definitely a kind of inspiration story. Next is I just saw this video on YouTube and I thought it's something interesting for you to watch. I guess you would have seen this at some point if you were active on social media. So this was from a CCTV footage taken from the two houses. So definitely for all the cat lovers, this must have been the most important thing ever. Our cat managed to chase away this dog and save this baby. So this was again a great thing, but again, it's not only visually interesting. I think it's also good news content, which a lot of major news channels carried in ABC, CBS, and NBC and other major television stations. And how these kind of small things also can be completely a newsworthy content and can get people's attention. That was a viral news. Which of these would you carry in your newspaper? More than 50 people left homeless by Hurricane Matthew, or 25 houses flattened by Hurricane Matthew yesterday? So always remember when it comes to news, it's always about people. It doesn't matter about the loss of property. It's only the loss of people that actually should be most important. So is it about people? A story that tells of something that has happened which affects both people and property, but I think you should always put people first if you are an editor. It doesn't matter, it might be even $1 billion worth of property, but people should always come first when it comes to news. So four important things, and I think, is it new, is it unusual, is it interesting or significant, and again, is it about people? Again, is it interesting or significant? For instance, discovery of an animal or an insect considered as extinct. This might be interest to a scientific community, but also it can get the attention of the people. Okay, I think this was recently where they found a Tasmanian tiger because it was thought to be extinct, but there have been some sightings in some part of the country, and people are really excited about that. And as it says, Tasmanian tigers, it's mainly found in Australia and New Zealand. And again, back from the dead, reported sightings fuel hope for return of Tasmanian tigers. So again, people are very interested about what's going to happen because we are talking about climate change and how animals are and insects are getting extinct, and how this means there's some kind of a kind of a light at the end of the tunnel for some animals to get back and get them space in our earth. So that's an interesting thing. So you should understand these are the four important criteria to be in news, and also need to understand the strength of a story. Two things. One is proximity. Second is personal impact. Proximity, as I told you, we discussed about the West Goshen road rage incident about the killing of a teenager. That's proximity, right? No, we are living close to Westchester and something happened in West Goshen, and we want to know, like, the more the proximity, the more we are interested about the news, and that's the strength of a story. Imagine a teenage girl being killed in Africa, or a teenage girl killed being in Pennsylvania makes sense, because the closer we are more interested about what is happening. Is it something that is a person that we know of? Does she goes to our university? So many things that matters. Okay, proximity is definitely a key. I'm not saying that the worth of life of an African teenager is not as much as a teenager in Pennsylvania, but when it comes to news, we always think the proximity takes an advantage. And personal impact, what is there in news for you? For instance, one of my friend's mom, she reads the newspaper for crosswords and Sudoku. I think it's kind of odd, but that's the personal impact. Like, what it matters for me. There are some people who read only the politics. There are some people who only read entertainment. They want to know what's happening in the life of celebrities. There are some people who wants to know what is happening in business, in finance, in stocks, because I have some investment in some of the stock exchanges in Bitcoin. So how is a personal impact, and how are our selection of stories also matter. So these are the strength of a story, and it actually important in terms of understanding the news content and all that. And I want you to kind of look at this tweet. Okay, you all know, we all are familiar with Westchester, and we love our food trucks. I really love the food trucks. It comes in very handy when we want to go grab a bite. I like the Mexican restaurant, the Greek truck, and the tea shop there. Everything has its own good aspects. So there's a tweet, okay? JJ Jones tweets, food trucks shutting down, more parking space for commuters. And again, JJ Jones tweet with BS at WCU, food trucks getting a new space for better service and extra space for parking. And again, JJ Jones tweets another one, VS at WCU, food trucks getting a new space for better service and extra space for parking with the link. So, okay, now my question is, of all these three links or three tweets, which one would you think has some kind of credibility? Obviously the third one, right? Because the first one just says, but we really don't know would any kind of extra layer of information where we can go and find out more. But then the second one gives you more information about it is a person from Westchester. And then the third one, it also gives you a detailed link about what exactly is the plan and why they are moving this and all that. Okay, so this is how you actually look at the credibility. Like, what are the extra layer of information can I get from this? Okay, so yes, tweets are great, but then we also need to make sure that we don't fall for it. And as I told you, there are different kinds of information. We looked at newspaper, magazines, and radio and television, and the internet. Obviously the internet is a game changer where there is so much of information, but we also need to understand, to have a clear approach to the different kinds of information. So let's look at the news information. Okay, so news information is gathered by professional journalists that can be verified by reliable, authoritative, and independent sources. So for instance, if you just looked at the tweet, right? Would you think that's a news information? No, because it is some by random people, right? So when news comes from professional journalism sources, where journalists, they make their livelihood by being in this news field and representing an organization, that kind of gives some kind of credibility, and that can be given or that can be categorized as news information. They can have their own bias or slant. I'm just telling you, news information is nothing but it is gathered by professional journalists. Second is publicity information. This is information that is distributed by PR companies to enhance the image of an individual or a business. So, for an instance, if you're reading something, and just by reading that, you will have a little bit understanding of whether the information is advertisement or is it from a publicity related stunt. So you should be able to kind of decipher that particular information. We all discussed about the various tools. So if you're looking at some kind of press release or some kind of pictures, then it's possibly by PR agencies. And if you're looking at some any kind of media content, you can possibly think it's ad, how it's being distributed. And propaganda is something that is generated mainly by government or political movements, okay? And their main aim is to convince people that, either that party is good or bad, or asking them to join or do something, okay? So basically, any information that has its origin in any political party or government, that can be branded as propaganda information. And again, the main aim for government is they always want to show their image in good light to the public, and they always claim that they are doing everything keeping the welfare of the people in mind. And they always want you to kind of give you the fact that they're doing something only for the welfare of the people. So those kind of information, anything that generates from the government or political parties, should be labeled as propaganda information. Moving on to the next three, entertainment information. So any information that is intended to create alternate realities, amuse, or generate interview revenue is called entertainment information. For instance, you're watching movie, okay? So definitely that's kind of it gives you or transport you to a different dimension, okay? It takes you to a different alternate reality. So that is can be termed as entertainment information. And you're watching the trailer of a movie. What is the point? The movie is releases in August 31st. Please come and watch it and all this stuff. So that is definitely entertainment information. But again, they're also trying to make money in the process as well. And if you look at advertising information, it is generated by advertising agencies to sell products and services. And again, we looked in detail about advertisement, how it's being done, how it is bought media. People buy spaces in the media outlets to get the information across, and that's advertisement information. And raw information is any information that is distributed from one party to another without editorial filters or verification. Why it is important to have editorial filters or verification? For instance, see, I am a newspaper reporter, okay? I cannot just publish any paper just like that. If I have to publish, I mean, I've worked in a newspaper, and I know how very so complicated the procedure is. First, I will write my story, and then that will go to my copy desk editor, and then he'll ask me to tweak it and fine tune it, and then it will go to my editor, and then my editor will go through all the thing, and then take it. My input editor will take it to the chief editor, and then the chief editor will see if there is a space for that. Depending upon the news content for the day, he might put me on the first page or the second page or the third page. It depends. So even a professional news organization, you have so many eyes that goes through your content before it reaches the mass. But any information that doesn't go through this content of verification or editorial content or editorial filter, that is called a raw information. So understand six information. The first information is news information. The second information that we discussed is about publicity information. And third is propaganda information. Fourth, entertainment. Fifth, advertising information. And sixth, raw information. So information can be broadly classified into these six categories. So let's look at some of the examples so that you'll have a better idea of what it is. Okay, so imagine this is a scenario where it's an hypothetical situation, and we'll see how this can take different shapes. Okay, Dr. Kristin Wolford will visit the campus of WCU next week. Here are some examples of the various forms of information that might be made available to students, faculty, and community members about Dr. Wolford's book, A Talk and a Background. Take Away the Computers by Dr. Kristin Wolford, noted educator, talks about a bestseller and explains why technology is actually hurting today's students. Supported by the Education Department, WCU, second in a series on the future of teaching in America. It's a free lecture Psych Student Union, 7 p.m. Thursday, book signing follows. So imagine this is going to be an important event that's happening in a campus, and we will see how various forms these can take, and how information can be categorized according, and how you should be able to distinguish the same information when presented in different platforms. Okay, so let's start. So imagine this is the information, and the quad actually manages to get this in their newspaper. Okay, so this is how they say. Noted educator Dr. Christine Wolford will explain how computers are hurting today's students when she gives a talk at WCU Thursday night. Wolford, professor at Huntington College in Kentucky, also will be signing copies of a best-selling book, Take Away the Computers. The book has been named a Silver Quill and awarded the Trendsetter First Place. A talk will be at 7 p.m. in Psych Student Union on campus, followed by the signing in the auditorium. Copies of the book will be available for purchase at $39.95. Wolford's research has aired on Good Morning America and been covered in the Journal of Educational and Pedagogical Statistics. She is a frequent and much sought after speaker on panels about teaching students in the digital age. So, what will you think of this? So, do you think this is a news information, or do you think this is publicity, or do you think what do you think this is? Don't worry, it might be wrong, right or wrong. Don't worry, just give it a shot. Okay, this is a case of advertisement where the people who are organized, they've got this idea and they've got the space, and they wanted to promote their upcoming event, and they actually paid money to the quad so that that's kind of being promoted in the newspaper. Again, look at the thing that it's all very much to the point, and it's basically they want people to come, and they also mention about the price of the book. And again, the thing is, it doesn't have any editorial content, which means it doesn't have any kind of insight or a sound bite or a interview from Wolford or any reporter. Nothing. It is just an information. Okay, so this is a classic case of advertisement in the quad, where this can be categorized as advertising information. The same thing. Okay, let's look at how you can do this. Okay, this is a story that appears on ramsonline.com, a local blog. Educators to speak at WCU about computers. Dr. Christian Wolford will present her views about the impact of computers on student learning at WCU at 7 p.m. Wolford wrote, "Take away the computers and believes technology is hurting students." Within quotes, "I heard that a book is really out of touch," freshman Emma Johnston said. "I mean, we couldn't learn anything if we didn't have computers." Sophomore Ned Baxter added, "I haven't read the book yet, but I think this sounds nutty," as she even spent time with students lately. Wolford's research had on Good Morning America and been covered in Journal of Educational Pedagogical Statistics. She's a frequent and much sought after speaker on panels about teaching students in the digital age. What do you think of this? Okay, do you think it's publicity information or advertising information or news information? What do you think? This is a clear example of publicity. You can tell that most of the information was taken from the press release that was we just looked at a little bit earlier. You can see the last paragraph, there's pretty much it's just they copy and pasted it. So whenever you see this kind of, see, you may not notice just by looking at it, but if you analyze in detail, you can know the source of the content. They've actually used it from some other platform. So definitely professional journalists will never do this. And this is, when you look at all this stuff, it only talks about Dr. Christian Wolford. It's, she's going to be here, and it also gives some kind of insight about some students about what they felt about this. So basically, it is just about promoting the event, even though she may not be paid for this, but I think they're just trying to at least get some kind of talk about the event, and thereby giving word of mouth kind of promotion for Dr. Christian's event. Let's look at this one. Okay, you had the following text message: "Hey, you want to go to the Ed Talk Thursday?" Someone's saying, why? Extra credit for Johnson's class. Some doctors think computers hurt us. LOL. Okay, I will go. So, what kind of information do you think this is? Do you think this is news information? Do you think this is publicity? This is doing advertising? Do you think this is entertainment? Do you think this is propaganda? Do you think this is raw information? This is an example of raw information. Text messages don't go through an editorial filter or independent verification process. So other examples of raw information can be a phone conversation on any post on Facebook or Twitter. So again, understand when this information can be a raw information or when this can be a news information. Okay, so you have at least, see, the thing is we can talk about in detail, okay, but I just want you to kind of have a bird's eye view of how to analyze different kinds of information. Okay, so this article appeared in the Quad. National educator sees problems from technology. Sunny Morgan. Computers don't help learning, they hurt it. That's what educator Christian Wolford will tell those attending a talk at 7 p.m. in Sykes Union. The author of Take Away the Computer is a guest of the education department, blah, blah, blah. Wolford is a frequent lecturer. By the use, we are definitely diminishing critical thinking skills, Wolford said in a phone interview. She added that attention spans are also shorter because of the bells and whistles today technology offer. We need just plain old information. So when you look at closely of all the information she has, I managed to get a lot of interviews from Wolford herself and also get some input from other professors. So this has some kind of structure. Okay, so what do you think this is? Do you think this is news information or publicity or advertisement or raw? So this is a classic example of news information, okay? And again, you just add a byline of reporter Sunny Morgan. She's a very popular news reporter at the Quad, and she also managed to get the interview of Christian Wolford. She also spoke to the professors at the education department and why they're organizing all this. So they're trying to give you multiple balanced sources so that we have an understanding of what is happening. So it must be verified by reliable, authoritative, and independent sources. The varied sources quoted in this article are a good indication that the author researched the story fairly. Okay, so let's move on to this particular stuff. So we looked at the 6 different kind of information: news, propaganda, advertisement, publicity, entertainment, raw. So understand the goal of the information is, the first is the news is it should inform. The goal of propaganda is to persuade us to do something. The goal of advertisement is to sell us something. The goal of publicity is to enhance the image of a product or a person or a company. And the goal of entertainment is to divert, to kind of take us to an alternate dimension or give us another reality or move us emotionally. That can be called entertainment. And raw information is entertainment that bypass third party verification or which miss the editorial filter. So I think if you really focus on this tabular column, you should be pretty much able to ace any kind of information and identify which neighborhood this information is falling under, and then you can decide whether you can really trust this information or not. Let's move on to this. Okay, let's see how many people can get this answer right.
My dear Belle, you're so ahead of your time. This is a small village.
You are the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. Nobody deserves you.
And it's small-minded as well. But small also means safe.
I've come for my father.
He's a thief.
Come into the light. I will escape, I promise.
Look, a girl.
Who said that?
Hello.
You can talk.
Well, of course. It's all he ever does.
How lovely to make your acquaintance.
Want to see me do a trick? What happens when the last petal falls?
The Nastel remains a beast forever.
And we become antiques. What did you do to it?
Nothing.
Get out of here! Go!
If she is the one who'll break the spell, you must finally learn to love.
Tell us all this time.
Have you really read every one of these books?
Some of them are in Greek.
True as it can be.
Even there's somebody else unexpectedly. Certain as a sun.
Rising in the east.
Tell us all this time. Tell us all this time. You are these.
Oh, I want you to answer what information neighborhood which this will fall under. Moving on to the next one, let's look at this one.
Ready?
I said! All right, hold on. We gotta get over it before it crests.
What information do you think this one will fall under? And I saw this photograph online. And what information do you think this one will fall under? It was a feed from one of my Facebook page. And what information do you think will this fall under? And let's look at this one.
Lily, I'm going to have you wash the celery.
Wife, nanny,
Oh, I checked you.
mother of 3, fitness instructor. Seems like Shelley Halchuk can do it all, except for one thing.
The one thing I can't do is sleep.
Experts say Halchuk is one of the millions of Americans who don't get enough sleep.
I like to get 8, but I actually only get about 4 or 5.
The problem is so pervasive, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention considers insufficient sleep a public health epidemic, one that can have surprising consequences on your health.
Just because they can get by with 4 or 5 hours sleep, it may not be best for them. And it is pretty clear that not getting enough sleep on a nightly basis can lead to health problems.
Health problems such as hypertension, heart attack, stroke, diminished blood sugar control, possibly leading to diabetes, weight gain, anxiety, and depression. So how much sleep do we need? The National Sleep Foundation says children need between 9 and 10 hours of sleep each night, adults 7 to 8. How much sleep are we getting?
Maybe 6 hours? 5 hours.
5 hours. You think that's enough? No.
It's not, but in a 2009 CDC survey, about 35% of adults reported getting less than 7 hours of sleep a night, with nearly 40% reporting at least one incident of nodding off during the day, and even more disturbing, about 5% reported nodding off at least once while driving. A frightening number, since the U.S. Department of Transportation estimates more than 1,500 Americans are killed each year because of drowsy driving. So how can we get more sleep? By changing some habits, says Dr. Douglas Kirsch of the Brigham and Women's Faulkner Hospital Sleep Disorder Service in Boston. First, watch the caffeine intake, none after 1 or 2 p.m. Second, take time before bed to wind down. And third, stop the screen time well before bedtime.
When you get light from whether it's a TV screen or a mobile phone screen, it sort of sends a message to say, hey, it's not time for sleeping.
And finally, Dr. Kirsch says, start looking at sleep for what it is, as important to our good health as exercise and proper nutrition.
We should be spending a third of our life sleeping, and when we deprive ourselves of that, we're really limiting our opportunities for good health.
And don't forget, besides enhanced productivity and better health, there's one more very important benefit to getting enough sleep. When we're well rested, as Shelley Halchuk knows, we tend to be nicer to each other.
I try, if I can get a nap in, like get a little, like a power nap, half hour, 45 minutes. If I can get that nap in, we're all good. But if I don't, the whole family pays.
In Boston, Massachusetts, Jim Morelli for CNN.
So what do you think this information will fall under? And I don't want you to just say, oh, this is news information, this is publicity information. I want you to give me a logical reasoning and explaining of why this information falls under this category. That's very important. So this is a still photograph, and what information does this fall under and why? I need the explanation as well. So don't just say eeny meeny or inky pinky ponky. That is not what I want. I want you to explain your answer, why you feel that this is this kind of information.